Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Vibrant Life podcast. This is the official podcast of the Vibrant Life community. And I'm Sarah Nolan, and I'm a burnout prevention coach and an energetic management advisor. And I'm here with Michelle Abraham, who is, she's a top level continuity consultant for CEOs who are changing the world. And she helps them to reconnect with their passions and really work and communicate with alignment. And she truly has a Midas touch. She transforms businesses and lives wherever she goes. So I'm super excited to have you here, Michelle. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Sarah, for having me, and thank you for that very wonderful introduction. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. So we were just talking about we talked about a lot of things actually right before this session, and something that I thought was really interesting that we just were talking about was you have a friend who she's in a nursing home with Alzheimer's, and we were talking about how we can learn from that kind of a situation and let go of our stories and create the story that we really want intentionally every day and really in every moment. So what are some other things that you learned, from that experience? Because it seemed like you were really inspired by that.
I've been doing a lot of work lately on limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
And limiting beliefs, it's such a vast and deep topic. And sitting in the nursing home and this woman who was an ex-employee of mine, so I've known her, probably have known her since I was in my early 20s.
Wow,
and sitting and seeing that everything is so fresh to her and new. And, watching her relearn how to maneuver, how to eat, how to, she could have a frustration, but she chose instead to sit and look at everything anew and to enjoy the freshness of the moment. And you hear a lot of people talk about being in the present. Well, she has no choice but to be in the present.
Right.
And to look at her, she's 87 years old, and I would never have guessed her to be more than 60.
Really?
There was not a wrinkle on her forehead. I mean, her skin looked amazing. Her health was beyond phenomenal. She was just so vibrant and energetic. It was fun to watch. But, as Sarah was talking about, we were talking about that she had a limiting belief her whole life that she was never artistic.
Yeah.
And
a lot of people have that limiting belief.
Yeah. I mean,
it's so interesting.
Like, they're so scared of expressing themselves or letting someone see a part of them that exists. And then when she couldn't remember that she had, she couldn't remember that she had that belief, she became an amazing artist. And, that's one of the things is as we start to let go of our beliefs, we start to align with our passions and our purpose at a whole new level. I went home from that just completely blown away saying, what are the things that are holding me back? That I think, if someone told me when I was in second grade, you're a bad communicator. Actually, I'm not a bad communicator. I help generate a lot of revenue for people and a lot of goodwill in the world. So how could I be a bad communicator? But for years, I thought I was, or, you might think that, like for me personally, I just went on a very exciting trip and, I took this memory from the assisted living home with me and said, I'm sitting here and I got invited to do some things that I would never have done. That were expressive and fun. I think one of them was I was getting to hang out with a Tibetan monk for 5 days, and he was the epitome of the TV or movie monk that is oblivious to the surroundings and everyone else is in danger and they're just blissfully walking through the world with the greatest of ease. And every picture that was taken of him was amazing, and every adventure he was part of. Like, he just walked up to random groups of people and sat down and smiled and took a picture.
That's awesome.
And to sit there and be reminded while I'm watching this, most of the group I was with sat on the sidelines while he was doing this.
Mm.
But then I remembered being with my dear friend, my surrogate grandmother, and went, you know what? I might not remember this tomorrow. No one else is gonna remember this tomorrow. Right. So I jumped up and I danced with the natives and played the drums in a band at a luau.
Mm-hmm.
I did a lot of things that just re-grounded me and reopened up the channels of expression that I remember having as a kid and loving. And I brought that back to work with me. I've only been back from the islands for about 2 days now. And it's really funny because I'm finding that communication is opening up around me, that I'm not limiting it because I think that somebody's going to misunderstand me, and it's funny because the cobbler's kids have no shoes.
Right.
So it's very easy to sit down and talk to someone and say, you're not saying something that matches what your actions are. So your actions are you've changed your life. Your actions are that you went on these big adventures, but when I'm talking to you, you don't want to step across that boundary. You're telling me that you don't believe that you deserve this new level of life. And I'm watching someone who doesn't have a choice with her level of life, and she loves it. She's a little frustrated sometimes, but aren't we all?
Yeah. So, so she's wanting to kind of get to a new level, but she's not necessarily taking the actions.
Yeah.
To do that.
I mean, I've been, part of what I do is really interesting because it doesn't matter what you want to do in life. You have to be clear on it.
Mm-hmm. And,
I used to talk about a theory of abundance, and it's a very simple concept that, how do I say it? It's funny, I haven't told the story in a while, but it's like the 3 doors of abundance, really. Mm-hmm. And there's 3 ways of approaching getting what you want and getting past a block. And the first door is off to the left. And that is a door where basically you believe so much that you're going to attract it, that it's going to be provided for you, that you don't see it right in front of your face. Mm-hmm. And it's sort of the old story about the lifeboat. And, there's a person stranded out on a lifeboat, and 3 different boats come to save them. And each time they say, don't worry, God's going to save me. You can go on your way. Well, the person dies and goes up to heaven and says, God, what happened? And God says, well, I sent you 3 boats.
Yeah.
It's right in front of your face, but you're so convinced that something good's going to happen to you that you're not willing to step across the boundaries or even define it. Right. There's a door to the right, and it's kind of like the mama bear, papa bear thing. The one to the right is basically you want it so bad you're going to accept anything that is even close to it. Mm-hmm. And I have a dear friend that wanted an office space in Beverly Hills, and she wanted it so bad. She called me one day and she said, I need your advice. I'm not really business savvy. Someone offered me this office space, and I've wanted it be in Beverly Hills my whole life. Should I take it? And I'm like, well, did you ask yourself any questions? Mm-hmm. What is this office supposed to do for you? Do you want it to be seeing clients in closed rooms? Do you want an open space, like a common room? Do you want a receptionist? Do you want foot traffic? Do you want an old building, a new building? Do you want glass windows? Do you want wood frame, contemporary? And they're like, what do you mean? Really? This is, it's a Beverly Hills office. It's probably gonna cost you, what, $10,000 a month for this office space. You get a year or 2 commitment to it. That's a lot of money to not know what you want. You're not going to be happy. So how many times do you know somebody who's wanted a bike as a kid, and they take the first bike that's offered to them and it falls apart, or a sports car because they want, they've always wanted a sports car, but they didn't know what it meant to have that, what it was going to take to run it, or a job. a boyfriend, any of those things. Well, then you get the third door, which is kind of like, if anyone's a Harry Potter fan, the room of requirements, that basically everything you've ever wanted is in that room. And it only functions based on how detailed you are.
Yeah.
And before the Alzheimer's, she couldn't go into that room because she was so scared. That room is overwhelming. There's so many decisions. There's so many choices. I need to numb it out. I need to blank it out. I can't do any of these things. Well, now she doesn't have that numbing agent. For someone like myself, I walk into that third room, the middle one, and I go, there's a million doors. Well, it's very easy. I want a new office. Oh, half those doors disappear.
Right.
Maybe 3/4 of those doors disappear. There's still millions of doors. Okay, I want an office that is very earthy, because you can see me. I am not going to be happy in a metal commercial glass building. Well, over half of those doors disappear. Then I'm like, well, I need to have a spectacular view, or I'm not going to get my business partner to even walk in the door. Another 400 doors disappear. And you just keep imagining, it just keeps realigning. And you know what? I've ended up with an office where you can see there's distinctly hardwood everywhere. There's real brick on the walls with pillars, stained glass windows, and we back up to an airport that looks over the LA Valley.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We also ended up getting it for about 1/4 of the price of any other office around. And we've been here for 4 years and never been happier in an office. Well, again, I had to teach myself to almost have that lack of memory about the past and what I failed at or what I didn't deserve, and keep looking at it saying, this is not scary, it's actually fun.
Right. Children are so good at that process.
Oh, they're amazing.
My son's turning 7 tomorrow, and we're always asking, like, what do you want for your birthday? And he knows exactly what he wants, no question. And as we're talking about this, I'm realizing as kids get older, the more time they spend with adults, they start questioning their decisions.
Yes.
It's like us adults come in and they're like, well, are you sure you want that? Don't you realize this? Don't you realize that?
Exactly. Society is telling you something. You sit there and you watch the commercials, or you watch your peers, and you go, I can't do what I want because that's going to be judged.
Right.
And
yeah.
It's not necessarily going to be judged. No one's even going to notice it. We as a company, the company that I happen to run with my father as a legacy project, we laugh about the fact that we will give away content. We build people's ideology, and we make them dream bigger and look bigger. I have to tell you, Sarah, I was doing your recharge program, and I was doing the vision board the other day. And this is making me think of it, because not only are we afraid to think big or think detailed, it's not going to manage.
Yes, the details are sometimes more scary than the bigness.
There's so much more for people to do. And it's so funny because I didn't cut out magazine. I was traveling, so I had no magazines. So I went online and I was like, what are the categories of what I want?
Yeah.
And I do a lot of meditation and spiritual work, and a ton of energy work. So I'm like, what are the things I'm working on? Well, my relationship, my finances, just like everyone else. I mean, I have the same problems as everyone else. Just I might have a few more weights, and maybe a little heavier than most people's because I'm carrying more projects. But I picked some pictures, and the craziest thing happened was within a day, my life changed.
Yeah.
One day. I mean, again, I'm a little more aware than somebody, because I'm saying I'm going to recognize that now when I see it. Now, this picture may not be exactly what I want, but it's close.
Right.
So what I'll do is I'll go back and find another picture that's even closer and keep drilling down. And people don't realize they really do have that much control by just simple vision.
Exactly. And something that I have found works in with that concept of, getting really specific and then attracting that into your life is there's like the bigger picture, and there's, what's in the highest and best. What I found, and maybe you've seen this too, is it's always better than I, with my human brain, can imagine. Like I can come up with my vision, but what comes to me like may not be exact, but it's always better.
You know, it's so funny that you said that. I've implemented a rule in my office and with all my team. And whenever they tell me that they want something, I get really upset and I correct them and I go, you want this or better.
Right.
And I force them. And it's funny because, you think there's a certain level of success and it's like, oh, all I want is this outcome. No, I don't ever want to limit what the universe is going to provide for me anymore.
Yeah.
That's a limiting belief that I didn't deserve it.
Right.
Then I have to change my belief to say, oh, wait, it's not that I deserve it, but through a higher power, I'm going to I'm going to find this happening for me. I'm going to find an abundance of income. I'm going to find an abundance of love. I think this morning, my friends and I were meditating to the concept of that all of our conversations are crystal clear at a higher vibration, which we defined because we couldn't think of the right terminology. And we realized that if we define what we mean by it, then that brings it that much closer to it. So it's like my goal is to say, a good example is a team of us were trying to define how we were going to put ethics and trust and value and an abundance of other qualities into a very short term. So we defined it as with skillful means, or through skillful means. But 6 people agreed what skillful means meant.
Right.
We all agreed that whenever we talk about skillful means, we are all going to project out honorable intentions, trust building. We're going to put our needs aside in this particular case. And we're going to make sure that the best tools possible for the person that we're talking to are utilized or made available or acknowledged, and it just, sorry, I realized I did not disturb on. So, but yeah, it's allowing yourself to get into what Disney called the plausible impossible.
Yeah.
It's just a way of thinking that says, why can a cartoon character get away with running off of a cliff and running fast enough that they don't fall? Why could that not happen to us?
Yeah. I was I had a retreat here in the past couple of weeks, and we were talking about creating the next season of our lives and visualization and stuff like that. And we were talking about how, like, if you were to tell yourself 10 years ago that this is what you'd be doing in 10 years, would you have believed yourself? And everybody said,
every year.
What was that?
I do that every year.
Yeah.
I look back and go, would I believe that 1 year later, this is what my life was going to look like?
It'd be like, heck no. Yeah. Like, what? Are you out of your mind?
Yeah, I laughed. I have a new EA, and she was laughing at me because I went on a trip last week, and I didn't buy my plane ticket until 12 hours before the flight.
Yeah.
And she's an EA, so she was, of course, I've got to get this in here. I have to have this taken care of. And I was like, no, just keep finding me options. I know what the plane ticket is going to look like when I get it. And I laughed because when it came said and done, I ended up with a ticket on the same flight as 3 of my friends, 1 row in front of them.
Oh, that's so funny.
With a return ticket. I mean, everything fell into place with exactly when I needed to be, where I needed to be. And I got to my destination and I realized I am sitting in a paradise location with 6 of my friends that were all hanging out with a Tibetan monk in the forest of a remote area, having the time of our lives. And I'm like, a year ago, I was sitting there wondering what I was going to do that night for dinner.
Yeah.
Who was I going to, who could I call while I was drinking a glass of wine? know, and it's like, wow, you know, I visualized this whole new life for myself. And 1 year later, you've got it.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing.
You just can't get caught up in the details. Like you said, it's like every time I'd ask for something or I'd write a goal, and that's the other thing that I'm writing and finding too, is that just visualizing it in your head is not always enough.
Right.
Yeah, I'm finding that connection to an image. I had a really interesting thought that came to me, and I met a photojournalist on this trip. Like, yeah, again, this was one of those magical trips where I met just, you name it, I probably met them.
Yeah, yeah.
But we were talking about visualization and the vision boards. It actually started with your vision board task because another friend of mine happens to be doing the course too. And
yeah,
he said that he was having trouble with the vision board because he didn't know what he actually wanted.
Mm.
And it took 2 or 3 videos before he realized what he actually wanted. And I said that, you know, it's funny because as we were talking about the vision board, I said, you know, a thought came to my mind, and I couldn't believe the intensity of it. It was that when I was looking through my eyes, I was creating something through ego of what I wanted. But when I started looking at the pictures in the magazines and online, I realized I'm finding images that somebody else captured. So by having a picture that someone else has captured, I am now realizing that that does exist somewhere and somehow.
Yeah.
And when I got that,
it's real. It's like an actual photo.
Exactly. It's an actual photo. And it didn't matter if it was a drawing that someone captured or an actual photo, but it was like when I wasn't drawing and I wasn't taking pictures of it myself, I realized that somebody captured this essence. And the photojournalist said that, she goes, that's crazy that you realize that, because as a photojournalist, my whole job is to try and sit and spend a week with somebody and be able to summarize their whole existence in life in one picture. And, you know, and I said, that makes total sense, because you're capturing the essence of all these nuances, more nuances than our brain can absorb.
Right.
And, you know, through that picture, I'm getting those nuances and I'm allowing that to be drawn to me. So it's been, yeah, that was a little deep and meaningful, but it was just it seemed like it kind of fit the moment.
Yeah. And Michelle, I know it's been a little while since I saw you last, but you look different.
You know what? It's funny. I have been told that by numerous people. And, you know, it's funny is a few people, not the same people, not my same groups, about 5 different people in the last 2 months have said it looks like I've visited the Fountain of Youth.
Yeah, no. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, they said, they're like, it's unbelievable that I'm aging back. They say I have the Benjamin Button syndrome. But
that's funny.
But it's fun. I'm starting to use my own philosophies that I help other people with, and I'm starting to apply them to myself. And the first thing is that I got very much aligned with the continuity. It's looking at the intention and saying, I do a little project it's not public yet, but it's going to go public pretty soon, called the 1008 Challenge. It's basically that I'm trying to accomplish 1008 tasks in like 5 years. Well, it's funny because no one can accomplish 1008 tasks in 5 years. But what you can do is start to realize, what's my intention for doing that? What's my intention? My intention is to take courses that build upon each other, that educate me, and to stay aligned with the direction I'm going in life. And I'm finding I'm doing, you know, Sarah knows me, I do a lot. My days are packed. I mean, they're nonstop. And I'm finding that not only are they nonstop, but they're so full of time now, because like the energy work I have to do to keep myself focused is opening up the doors for these challenges, and it's opening these doors for opportunities. It's opening up the doors for my business to run more smoothly without me. It's opening up the connectivity between activities. You know, I can sit down and in 5 minutes connect to someone at a level I could have never imagined before. And that's taking so much stress out of me, because it's all because the energy is flowing through me, not against me anymore.
Right. Exactly.
Learning tools that, you know, help me let go of a belief The stuff that Sarah does is amazing, and people are not always aware of how deep it runs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But, someone had told me once, energy is life. And when you stop the energy, when you block the energy somewhere, you start to die. But if you can keep the energy flowing, then you basically can live forever in theory.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's one of the things that, again, I looked at my friend that was in the home, the assisted living home, 80, 87, 88 years old, and she had less wrinkles than I did. The only reason her hair was gray is she's Norwegian,
Yeah.
So it was bright blonde to start with. The level of her health was incredible because she didn't have any blocks anymore. She believed in a higher power all along. So she just goes with the flow of the energy where it takes her now.
Yeah, that is so interesting. That's really interesting. You said that, how it manifested for her. I know with dementia, it can manifest differently, like with a lot of fear.
Yeah.
And I wonder if it helped her that she already had this foundational, almost like a cellular belief system that helped her to manifest it in a different way.
I have to imagine that it had to help her tremendously because you look at children these days. Mm-hmm. Children are amazing. They're born connected different than we are. And if anyone that has been around children, the each generation comes with its new amazing superpower.
Yeah.
And, it's funny because I'm a very big advocate that, you don't have to define what your higher power is or what the cellular connection and base is. You can pick what that means to you. But if you don't have that, you don't, if you don't have that belief, your ego or your subconscious or whatever you want to call it starts to make decisions on your behalf.
Mm-hmm.
And those decisions are not based off of a foundation that's millions of years old.
Right.
And it's so funny because it's not like going, I have a belief in spirituality that says religion is man's need for man's approval and spirituality is man's need for God's approval or a connection to a higher power.
Right. And
you watch all the sporting events and you watch anyone who's accomplished something amazing, and 90% of them, first and foremost, they thank God.
Mm-hmm.
Their God, and you start to realize that, I'm not doing this. This may sound absolutely insane, but I'm actually doing less work now than I've ever done in my life.
Yeah. Yeah, me too, actually.
And it's crazy because literally, if I hear my own voice, when I'm working on something, I know that I'm going the wrong direction. If I hear a voice that I've learned to hear, which is that foundation at a cellular level that says, at a cellular level, I'm reacting to something. Okay, well, you know what? I don't know how any other way than to react. So I'm going to learn and teach myself what it looks like for this to exist in my life. And I think I am a little complicated there, so I'll try and smooth it out a little bit and say, I'm looking for the love of my life. Well, I never felt the love unconditionally to me, so I tried to myself put that into my life, and I defined what that looked like. Well, now that I'm working on a higher power on my goals and accomplishing what I want, then I realize I never had that. So can you program in me what that looks like, what that feels like? So now when I'm walking around, I have this unconditional love for everyone.
Right.
The unconditional love that's coming back to me, even in conflict, is blowing my mind. So I'm like, well, I don't have to pick that person. There's not another person that I need to manifest that love with now, because now I'm realizing at a cellular level, all the blocks that told me I wasn't good enough to be loved are gone.
Mm-hmm.
Now I realize I actually like myself as much as other people like me, I hope.
Yeah. Yeah.
It really, it changes things. And I hope I said that clear, because I'm sitting there going, I know what I meant, but I hope that made sense to you.
Yeah, to me, that was perfectly clear. And that sounds like such a powerful tool to use in any situation, especially in business where it's all about vision. And if you don't have the program, like part of you knows what the vision is, but if you don't have that programmed into you yet, you've never been exposed to it, you just know that it's possible, you know that it's out there, have that ability to install the program, to magnify it, to amplify.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly it. It amplifies it. It sits there and it's like, you know what you want. And think about it. Anyone that's run a business or even been an employee, I mean, you're having to tap into a vision, either
Right.
your vision or someone else's vision. And if you don't know what that looks like or feels like, how many people have had jobs they hated because they don't have direction?
Mm-hmm.
They don't have purpose. How many people have been in relationships where they think the other person is responsible for their unhappiness?
Yeah.
And, when you come together as a group and figure out, first you as a leader, and it's funny because someone gave me a lecture one day, and it was a lecture. I was spinning my wheels in mud, and they gave me a lecture that was saying basically everything's my job. And they're like, I'm not telling you to go and be a lawyer. I'm not telling you to be a doctor. I'm not telling you that you have to go get all these licenses, but I'm telling you, you have to be your own advocate. A lawyer can only do what they see in a book of law as what they can do. They're like, without you telling them the need you need filled, they can't fill it. Right. So it's giving each person around you that gift of a program of what does it look like and what does it feel like. And it's not my job to give that to somebody, but if I'm running a business, I need to know first what that looks like. I need to have myself clear on what I'm trying to accomplish. I had a conversation with somebody, and most people make their business based off of a vertical. And what that means for someone that doesn't know it is a vertical would be, if you're a doctor, you would be in a vertical category of products that would be applied to doctors. You might have an introductory and more advanced. You may have different prices of it. But you're going to make sure your product is aimed at a doctor. And if you're, a realtor, same thing, you're going to go to someone who's a specialist in realty. Well, I happen to be in an industry where our client base is 1,000 different industries and 10,000 different sub-industries. And, we don't have a vertical. People go, well, it has to apply to someone. Well, our products are vertical, as in, how you get touched by the product. So if somebody is starting a business, they wouldn't start with something that we would call low touch or no touch. Right. That would be an introductory product that would be aimed at anybody who just wants to kind of get a feel for what's going on, get some direction. And as you grow in your vision and you grow in your understanding of concepts and strategies and strategic thinking, then we have a product line that goes into a medium touch. And that is where you get a few minutes and you have to focus yourself and prove yourself worthy of the time of the strategist that's involved. We go all the way up to a high touch and then a golden egg. And the golden egg is where we've connected with you, and the vision together is so strong that we are collaborating in what we do forward. And it's funny because a lot of people have a hard time finding the vision of who they are and what they are, and being able to program what they're trying to do to other people. And for me, it came because I actually cleared the blocks out, and I was like, I'm trying to make this fit into a tactical program, and I found a lot of people like Sarah that were like, no, tactical is part of it, but you need to clear the energy so that you're channeling something. You're allowing, the energy to flow through you, so you're seeing clearer pictures. You're seeing a clearer purpose. You're seeing a clearer way of explaining what you do. You're feeling a clearer way. I'm sitting there and getting kind of a strange analogy where it's like, I did a run called the Tough Mudder. This year, and it was my birthday present to myself because I'm that kind of person. And it's funny because, as you're getting ready for that race like that, you have to convince yourself you want to do it.
Right.
And then when you're doing it, you're getting dirty and muddy, but you're pushing all these fears and all these limited things, and you're trusting people around you. You're getting filthy. Absolutely filthy. And it's so funny because at the end of the race, there's these community showers, and everyone's in their whatever suited up gear they're in, and they're just rinsing it off, and you're watching the mud come off. And that's sort of what doing energy work is you're pushing through your fears, you're pushing through your limitations, you're working with someone that's helping you make sure that you're staying grounded and focused, and they're guiding you through it. And when you come through the other side, you have, even though you're tired sometimes, you have this new existence that you're not sure about. You find yourself just shining and glowing, like what everyone says, like, I look younger every day because every day I'm picking a challenge and I'm pushing through it.
Right, exactly. And I feel like sometimes the age that people see on a person is like the weight, it's the heaviness of just constantly piling on the stuff. And then it's just like they're like clogging the energetic pores, and then you release it and it's like you can shine through all of it.
Someone said to me, I go and travel all over the world, and I see people every year at the same events. And it's funny because I went to a location last weekend, and someone said, I met you like 5 years ago, and I thought you were a lot smaller, a lot shorter. And I started laughing. I said, that was because at that point I was beaten down by life.
Yeah. And
the only thing that's changed is that I really and truly have opened up the energy channels around me and said that, I have new boundaries. And everybody has vibration. Everybody lives, everything is a frequency. Every item around you, a computer, a phone, a person, a car, and I used to believe that I was broken as a kid, or there was some limitation that said I have to stay in a lower vibration. Because I'm broken. If I go to a higher vibration, it's gonna hurt me.
Right.
And then all of a sudden one day I'm like, wait, I'm not actually broken. I just think I'm broken.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I'm gonna, if I'm asking people to work at a higher vibration around me, then I need to be at that higher vibration too.
Yeah.
If I'm helping you break through something that says that you're trying to sell a product or a service, or, you're saying you want the love of your life, but every time someone comes in, there's a fault on them.
Mm-hmm.
Every time you try and sell a product and the person comes to get the product, they're like, oh, that was a bait and switch. And you're like, no, it wasn't. Well, yeah, it was, because the energy, something in you told you couldn't deliver what you're saying you want to deliver. And the energy removes it. And like, I will go and sit next to somebody I've met 80 times, and they didn't even, somebody's wife the other day didn't recognize me. And it was funny because I walked in and they looked at me, and they made sure to come to introduce themselves to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked back at him and I started laughing. I said, I've met you every year for 18 years now. And they looked at me and they're like, Michelle? And I went, yes. We've been doing this event with you every year for 18 years.
That's so funny.
I'm not good friends with them by any means.
Yeah.
But, that's the difference between letting the energy run through me and feeling like I don't deserve it, or having a limiting thought, or letting my ego make my decisions for me.
Yeah. When I first started doing energy work, like I used to be the kind of person where I'd walk around like just kind of closed off, like my whole posture was closed off. And when you do energy work, you just get open, your heart gets open, you get open in the front. And I remember walking down the street and seeing like people looking at me and like making eye contact with me. And I'd never experienced that before because I was so closed off to all of that. And people would say hi to me, just like walking down the street. And I was like, wow, this is so interesting. I'm not used to that, but it kind of does feel pretty good.
Yeah. I have a friend who, it's really funny because he refuses to acknowledge anyone that's below his vibration level.
Yeah.
And it's funny because we were talking about it. My one of my business partners, he travels a lot, and he seems to always be one step ahead of national tragedies, like the tsunami in Japan.
Yeah.
It was in that town the day before.
Interesting. Yeah.
It was in New York, 2 blocks away from one of the explosions a few months ago.
Mm-hmm.
So he was in Paris during the, like, just missed the riots. I mean, you can follow him, and everyone tells me that, like, I should stop him from going on trips. I don't have to stop him because he's in the energy.
Right.
The reason he's an international icon is because he's always trusted and followed and channeled the energy.
Mm-hmm.
So he always knows when to leave. He's always, and maybe that will change one day, but for the most part, if it changed, he's 70 years old at this point.
Yeah.
He's not going to stop making these trips. And I'm like,
right.
You have to realize that in his world, these things don't happen. I think I told you that I was recently had a 36-hour layover in Istanbul.
Yes.
And It was the same thing where I told everyone I wanted to go because, again, a passport stamp is an accomplishment. It's a certificate in my book.
Yeah, yeah.
It was in not a wartime, but it was in a warning. There's color codes of awareness over there that said that, basically orange means if you don't have to, don't go. Red means don't go.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the 2 highest, and it was an orange status. And I talked to a few friends of mine that were in the securities and used to that kind of environment. And they said, why would you be in this restrictive thinking? Mm-hmm. How many people live in that city that live there every day? Millions of people are in that city every day and they're fine.
Yeah.
So, don't bring attention to yourself, but stay in the energy and use some common sense and you will be fine. And they're like, I'm not guaranteeing you're going to be fine. I'm not telling you to go out and be stupid, but they're like, if you want to go do it, don't let the media, don't let all these other things tell you can't do it. Well, I walked off the plane and went through customs, ended up in no man's land for about 5 hours while I convinced them that I really did want to go in the city. And finally they stamped me. They gave me a visa and they stamped me and let me out. And I got out and I looked around. I'm like, I couldn't even think about, like, I'm like, where's the guy with my name? Where's the guy with my name sitting here? The one that's going to take me to see all these cool things. And I was like, oh, I didn't plan this trip. So I looked around for people that were in the same vibration as I was, somebody that I was attracted to that would make eye contact with me. And, I had a very strong intention. I wanted to safely be traveling to this one location and back. Mm-hmm. And, I knew what it should cost, about the time it should be. I knew the kind of, again, I was being my own professional, my own advocate. I knew all the pieces to ask for, and right around the corner was a gentleman who happened to be a certified, airport badged travel taxi tour guide. And there was no one around, and he looked at me and he's like, I said, he was in with the airport. He was standing next to the militia. And I'm like, and he spoke English, and he said, what are you trying to do? And I said, I'm trying to get a taxi or some safe means of transport to a place called the Prosperous Bridge and back. And I said, whoever takes me will get the round trip. And I said, that's all I really want to do. Anything more is a plus, but I don't care. And he goes, well, I'm not busy right now. And his car was right over there and had all the credentials in it. And it was the nicest Mercedes. And he ended up taking me all through Istanbul. We saw 18 sites. He knew all the militia, so he would drive me up to the sites, give his key and my passport to the army guards.
Right.
He escorted me into the palace. They let me drink out of the fountains.
That's amazing.
He took me to all these private locations, and then I came back and I went, that's the energy that's running through you.
Right.
Most other people are too afraid to even leave the airport.
Yeah, yeah.
Stop looking and watching the ticking of the flights and the clock bumping and shop a little bit, and that would be it. But I was like, I'm going to stay involved with a belief that if I keep my vibration up and I pay attention to what's around me and I stay focused on my intention, and millions of people live in this town and aren't getting hurt.
Right.
I probably can make it to this bridge and back.
Yeah. And I love how you were so intentional, so specifically about saying, looking for somebody who's in the same frequency. And that's something that anybody who's watching or listening can do right now, is think like, what are you looking to attract into your life, and getting super intentional about like the frequency that you want to attract.
Mm-hmm. it and it's that or better, it's
Right.
that
Yeah.
limiting it. I was happy with a taxi that would be safe,
Right.
but my goal was I want that or better.
Yeah.
And beyond better. The whole trip cost me, the whole entire day of tour guiding only cost me $400 US, and that included the tip.
Yeah, that's
And
amazing.
gas and food.
Yeah, that's incredible.
18 stops in a foreign country that I wasn't even going to get out of the plane at the airport from.
Yeah.
But you're so right. It's such a simple thing to sit there and you look at somebody and you can feel a connection, and you smile at somebody,
Mm-hmm.
and you share that energy for a second, or I think about it with food. I have an anaphylactic allergy to iodine,
Mm-hmm.
and I basically can die at any moment. And it's so severe that if somebody touches the back of my chair after eating a piece of shrimp and I touch my chair, I will react. I was actually in Hawaii last week, and my friends were laughing because they went to go see the sea turtles, and I was up on the cliffs and the waves crashed up and hit my leg. And no one thought twice about it. And I walked back to the car and I'm calm because I'm so used to it.
Right.
But they saw me move over to the side and do some weird things, and they're like, "Are you okay?" And they look at my leg, and I have, it looks like someone had beat me with a leather strap.
Really?
Welts crisscrossing my leg from where the water hit me. And I went, I have to be very careful, and I've learned to use the vibration of things to do what's called kinesthetic testing. It's a way of me saying, if my body is repelling it and pushing away, then the vibration's not aligned with me and it's not safe for me.
Right.
If I feel strong and I'm drawn towards it. Now, there's a lot of ways to fine tune it, and each person's different. So, and Sarah has pointed out to me a few times that, sometimes if we feel like it, we can convince ourselves that, we can false positive the test. But for the most part, it helps me tremendously because I look at it and go, am I in the right door for the rooms of abundance? The 3 doors of abundance. Am I standing in front of the right door?
Yeah.
No, I'm not. Am I in the door? Am I even asking myself the right question? If I'm asking myself the right question, chances are I'm going to get a response immediately.
Right.
If I'm asking myself the wrong question, or like my friend that was trying to do the vision board, and he's like, I can't do it because I don't know what I want. And I'm like, oh, well, just start with anything you want. And let it go from there. Open a door.
Right, exactly, yeah.
And yeah, that's how that's my trick. That's how I stay. People ask me how I do what I do on the continuity, where I'll read a piece, someone will show me a marketing piece that they've done, and I'll read it, and I can edit it and tell them that it needs a transition, or this misses a hole here, or that's a hole there. And people are like, you're so amazing at this. And I went, no, I actually use energy. I read it and I go, oh, this is flowing, and it stopped flowing. I don't really know what's missing because I'm not the subject matter expert in the case. I just literally, all I'm doing is telling you that you've missed something here. And they're like, how do you do that? And I'm like, oh, I'm not going to tell you a muscle test, but yeah, that's what I'm reading, and I'm like, and most of the time it's spot on.
Yeah.
Most of the time, if I'm listening to someone, I'll do the same thing. I'll feel this just picture or this image or this something balling up on me, and sometimes it means to run the other direction. And lately I've been working on a new way of looking at it. I haven't even told Sarah about this. This is something that's been opening up in the last few weeks, and it's that when I feel again, because I was working on the difference between resisting and responding to things. So now I ask myself, when I start to resist something, I'm like, I've removed a belief. I've worked on removing the belief that I have to have the resistance to protect me. Now the resistance is there to guide me. So instead of falling away from it or pushing someone because there's resistance, now I look and I lean into it and go, what is it that's missing here? What is this person needing, or what am I needing, or why am I concerned about this? And let me address the real question. And it's like the Eastern philosophy of medicine, you don't treat the symptom, you go to the core of what's causing it.
Yeah.
I'm finding that my meetings are going from half an hour to 15 minutes.
Interesting.
I'm finding that I'm a level of interview for potential clients now, and I'm not getting into arguments with them, but I'm feeling the resistance. My resistance is something they say, which gives me a cue that I need to ask closer, because I'm getting close to a point of incontinuity with them.
Mm-hmm.
If there's incontinuity with their thinking and it's causing me to react, well, that's going to cause their clients to react. It's going to cause their potential loved ones to react.
Right.
It's going to cause their family to react. It's going to cause them to react. And I'm like, I'm going to ask you questions, because right now, if I'm reacting, I don't want you as a client. Before I'd be like, no, they're rejected. But now I'm like, I'm finding that of 6 people I've tried this with in 10 days, 4 of them have come forward and completely changed, because I asked them questions that said, if you are saying you want to be this advocate, where are you willing to cross? Where are the lines that you're willing to go to on it?
Right.
If you want an outcome, do you want an outcome to do it for this person, or do you want to learn it from this person and be an advocate for everyone who needs this? I'll be a client. I'll let you be my client for this one application. And I'd let you be my client for the bigger application, to be an advocate or license what you learn. But you have to tell me which one it is. And they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, well, then come back to me when you do know.
Right.
Like I said, of the people I've done it, about 3/4 of them have come back to me and said, I want to move forward.
Yeah. And it's so it's so powerful that you are being present with that resistance, because so many people will just run. They'll either run or they like just get rid of it, but they never stop to be present and like listen to it. What is this resistance telling me? And it sounds like you've like really figured out the language of that resistance for yourself.
Well, it only took me 50 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish I would have come across a lot of these tools a lot sooner, but I mean, it's exactly that. I mean, it's a blessing. The allergy I had taught me what resistance is, and that resistance saves my life in that case.
Yeah.
But really what that resistance was telling me, it was saving me, because most people that have anaphylactic allergies wouldn't even go near their allergen. Right. But I'm like, my life can't be hidden.
Right.
I had to write an email this morning that was maybe 2 sentences, if that. But it was one that I looked at the date, and it was a month for me to write those 2 sentences.
Yeah.
And even when those 2 sentences got written, I knew that I wasn't being clear on the outcome I wanted. And it was really funny, because the response came back. I knew it would come back instantly. I knew that this person would respond to me, because the nature of the situation. And I laughed, because I really, really, really sat down and hunkered down and started doing energy work, going, why don't I want to write these 2 sentences? Why am I watching 2 broke girls at 2 a.m. instead of writing this message? Why am I rebooting my computers and upgrading them at 2 a.m. instead of writing this message? Why am I breaking things so I can't write this message? Why am I pushing this backwards? Well, I'm pushing it backwards because it's a time for me to step into the limelight, take the reins, and run on something I didn't want to run on. And I had to go against somebody who is a world-renowned business person, and they're not making a decision, and their head's in the sand, and I'm the one that has to be the leader. And I'm going, am I ready? I'm a thought leader, but do I want to lead? I finally did it, and it was crazy, because within 12 hours, 15 things broke free.
Yes, I know exactly what you mean.
And I'm not exaggerating. I mean, I can show you a piece of paper. I went over it with a friend of mine today. I went 43 eye-open items of complete divisions that were being staled, and 15 of them broke free because of those 2 sentences. but it was that resistance. And my old resistance would be, like I said, if somebody was getting hives from something, they'd be like, oh, I can never go near that. Well, yeah, I'm never going to touch iodine on purpose.
Right.
But I'm going to test everything around me and say, how close can the real world can I stay? You know, I have a dog that's trained to help me, and he can go with me everywhere. People are like, you have a dog trained to identify iodine? Well, that dog is more, I think Sarah's met that dog. He, in the last few months, has really figured out the energy between when I'm thinking something. And this is a crazy story to tell you, because he recently had surgery, a tumor on his spine. And the tumor was causing him so much pain that he was unpredictable, unreliable, unfocused, skinny, had a lot of issues. They removed the tumor, and it took about 4 weeks of constant care, taking him with me everywhere. But at the end, the pain was removed from him, and he started doing his job as a service dog. And he now is syncing up to me, where I know from my allergies, I have to stay not just focused in business, not just focused for my clients, not just focused for my friends and loved ones, but for my service dog to do his job for me. I have to be able to project very strongly what my intentions are. If I want to pick up my phone and take my phone and my extra set of headphones and my backpack out the door with me, and I'm reacting, I may think that I grabbed my backpack because my mind is clear, but my body can't respond. So the dog has to be aware and follow me around and be paying enough attention. And the message I have has got to be mentally so strong that he knows that I was going to take my backpack, but I didn't. And he has to get my attention that I did not take my backpack.
Yeah,
or
that's
a
incredible.
phone is ringing and I'm thinking I should answer this phone. And I'm thinking I'm going to answer the phone, but my body's not moving. And he has to wake me up and say, the phone was ringing, something happened and you did not respond correctly. So the resistance is a gift. So the resistance is telling me, and telling the dog, I'm resisting what I thought I was going to do. And he thought he was in trouble for the first year I owned him. He thought I was mad because he's like, you're not responding the right way. So I did something wrong. Now he understands I'm not responding the right way, which means I'm resisting, but it's not intentional. And I need something to help me clear that out. And I can actually do a meditation most times if he catches it soon enough. I can actually do a visualization or a meditation. If I don't catch it soon enough, I have to take medication.
Right.
And if I don't catch it and the medication doesn't work, then it gets very serious.
And so the meditation and visualization helps you to come out of the episode.
It helps me to reconnect the energy and draw the energy back into me to flush the allergen out.
Right.
To get my body recongruent.
Now,
congruent again.
I think it's so interesting that you have really embraced the energy work, and it's really a lifestyle for you.
Yes.
And so many people are like skeptical of it. Like somebody said to me recently, oh, that's pseudoscience, it's like they were almost offended by it. And so I'm curious, like, how did you originally get into it? And like, were you skeptical at first, or how did that transition for you?
I'm terrible. I have a mind that my friends like to say I have a very fast processing mind.
Yeah.
And so when I was born, I had a lot of health issues, and I can remember very traumatic and extensive incidents of my life from back when I was 2 years old. And it's funny because I was always very intuitive and I was always very empathic. I didn't know what either of those two things meant.
Yeah.
They were there. And as things started to happen to me that I couldn't explain, or I'd understand things at levels other people didn't, or I could communicate and accomplish things that people wouldn't understand, it started to open up questions for me. And just like most people, I think that you get very, very, very scared of a power that's bigger than you that you don't understand. And a lot of people, they were brought up in a religious environment. They were brought up under science, that whatever their beliefs are, they start seeing something and they have to have an explanation for it.
Right.
And I did the same thing. I started reading every Bible, the Quran. I went to every religion, and I was like, I need to know how the universe starts. I started reading Stephen Hawkins. I started like studying quantum physics. And then all of a sudden I kind of had an incident where my life was changing dramatically. So, I mean, I spent like my 20s reading and researching and playing around with just the magnetic side of it, the fun side of it. Never really thought of how to control it or even that I should control it. And then I would have just complete, utter fear-based, like, anxiety attacks. And like, I wouldn't stop me from doing something, but it would be like, I'd have to really like, I'm like, I don't understand what's happening to me, or I'd have, I would just really not understand. I wouldn't understand what was going around me because I would feel something and I'd have a premonition and then it would happen.
Right.
And it's like, I don't get why do I see these things? Why do my dreams come true? And so I started studying even more, and then I ended up with a health issue. And I realized that it didn't matter where I went or what I did. I was not going to get rid of this health issue if I didn't really figure out how to keep the positive around me. And when I started researching the positive, my grandmother wanted me to go back to my heritage and learn something about Judaism. And I was brought up with a Catholic mom and a Jewish father and no religion, no structure, no spirituality. My father really was a channeler and my mother was a channeler. They were both international level business owners, and they would channel what was going on, but they didn't acknowledge it. They didn't respect that. That's where it came from. They didn't challenge it either. So it just flowed through. Right. And, I went, I need to figure out what's going on. My grandmother pushed me, and I lived in a town that I opened a phone book, because back then it was phone books before they got rid of those. And I told my grandmother I found that there were like 15 different types of temples you could go to, and I had no idea what any of them meant. And she's laughing. She's like, okay, well, you don't want to go to a conservative one. You would not want to do this one. You don't want to do that one. And I said, what about Kabbalah? And she's like, well, technically it is in that category, and I will take any step you will take forward. And I went, okay, fine, I'll go and I'll study that. And I started studying that, and then I started realizing that there's a level of energy that goes across science and religion and spirituality and all these different belief systems. And I read a book that was 5,000 years old that explained to me, why you didn't eat pork, because it was not a belief system of what I thought. It was because of the stomachs and the science of the way they digest food, that it wasn't as good for you. Right. And I learned that tithing was not to a church, that tithing was releasing 10% of that which you're afraid of losing in order to maintain an abundance of flow of that through you. And I'm like, well, holy cow, I always thought tithing was a church thing. Right. I didn't realize tithing was an energy thing. It's releasing the fear and the belief that you're not going to have it. And I started volunteering my time. Yeah. And I started realizing that people were like, what are you up to these days? And I'm telling them, they're like, how are you doing that? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'm on 3 boards of directors right now, and I'm traveling and I have a life. And they're like, and I went, wow, okay, I'm stumbling upon this because my grandmother realized that I was making a concerted effort to only surround myself with positive. I had to release the people around me that were dragging me down, and not dragging me down like, oh, you're a terrible person, but I'm saying the people that were, I made an arbitrary rule that said, if you have the same problem 3 times that I visit you, then you don't want to get rid of that problem, and I won't come back until you either focus on a different problem or let go of that problem. And, and I found people letting go of their problems to be around me. And then I started going, oh, I better study more of this Kabbalah, because this Kabbalah is about energy. And then I started to realize that there's all forms of energy. There's Tai Chi, there's, the Buddhist energy, there's every different belief system has an energy. And when you start to look at it closer, it's actually scientifically being proven. They're showing tests. How can you deny when you look at a jar of water under a microscope that's been exposed to various words or emotions?
You know what I read about recently? I think it was from Cornell University. One of the scientists did energy work on a petri dish of bone cells. So she had a control and then the energy work one. And the one with energy work, the bone cells started growing.
Yeah.
And it's like the bone cells don't have a belief system. Like,
yeah,
it's.
They don't have a belief system. They don't have, they're only energy.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And you start to look at, I remember working with a holistic vet, and she came up to me one day and she goes, your dog asked if I could work on her. I'm like, well, then work on her. And she goes, and she's working on her, she's doing Reiki on her. And then she pulls out some holistic, pills, little pellets. Mm-hmm. And she puts 2 different ones and one in each hand. And she offers it to the dog, and the dog figured out which one she wanted. Well, this particular dog is a black lab, and that black lab was not just an average dog. She was one of my service dogs. Mm-hmm. And that dog lived to 16 years old.
That's incredible. Yeah.
It's incredible for a black lab. Well, I used the same technology on the next dog. Mm-hmm. The next dog was a Rottweiler that only usually lived between 8 and 10, maybe 12 years as an old one. I just put my Rottweiler down at 16 years old. Mm. And I think she was only 15, but she was the same thing, where she would tell me which food she wanted. She would tell me what she wanted for dinner. She would tell me, and I realized that she was looking at the vibration of the food. Yeah. And when I was sick, and when I was telling you about being sick, I went to the Mayo Clinic, and I made a deal with them that they would supervise my protocol as long as I was getting better. But if I went down to certain levels, they would take over, and I had to do Western medicine, biopsies, and all that stuff. Well, I started researching how to detox, and I would listen to my body, like not a recipe every day. Mm-hmm. I'd be like, oh, you know what? These types of foods, they say you can only have so many a day. Mm-hmm. Well, I found that some days I wanted 16 ounces of it, and other days I wanted 1, and some days I just didn't even want it at all. Mm-hmm. So I honored what my body was saying, because the energy of that food was being drawn to me. Right. And I started realizing, well, if it tastes sweet to me, then I need it and I want it. If it tastes bitter, then I don't want it. I went, oh, well, let's see. The Kabbalah is telling me that if I eat things that are actually engineered for my body to digest, my body's going to tell me what to eat. Right. Yeah. Well, look, it is. So then I'm going, it's a little bit of spiritual, it's a little bit of, it's a little bit of science, a little bit of just believing and trusting. Yeah. And, you have a lot of changes when you raise your vibration, because the people around you don't necessarily raise with you. Right. And, you may love them and have great feelings for them, and it scares you, because when you start to see it, people will break away. And you might think you're going crazy, because you're like, how can this really be happening? I can sit there, the trip I went on, I was sabotaging it, because I knew that I was going to have to spend time with a highly elevated group of people. Mm-hmm. I think I'm highly elevated, but these people were kind of kicking my ass a little bit. Yeah. And I laughed about it, because one of them was a Tibetan monk, one was a bishop, and like these are people that like really study. Mm-hmm. Like, I am not in your league, but I'm going to go and play with you. And
That's always so fun.
It was so much fun. But on the trip there, I live probably, as the crow flies, maybe 30 minutes from the airport. If the traffic is reasonable, maybe 35, 45 minutes. Mm-hmm. And knowing that the airport was under construction, it was probably safe to give it an hour and a half to 2 hours. I left my house at 90 minutes. No, let's say more like, I'd say maybe 70 minutes. Okay. I ran into an accident on the freeway, and I was laughing, because I knew I used every excuse in the world. I had every reason why I wasn't leaving the house. Mm-hmm. And I laughed, because I decided to use the energy to see if it was right for me to go on this trip. Because I'm like, hey, if this trip is right for me to go on, I'm going to make it to the airport with grace and ease. I'm going to flow through parking and TSA, and I'll be on my flight comfortably with all my other friends. And, it was funny because I relaxed instantly. But if I'm not supposed to be on this trip, I won't make it. If I am supposed to be on this trip, then all of it's going to fall into place around me and it really won't matter. So I relaxed and I was talking to people in the car, listening to music, laughing, smiling. I pulled into the airport. It was less than 30 minutes before my flight, still hadn't checked in. And I'm like, still just smiling, going, if this is meant to be,
right.
Don't worry about it. Again, it's that belief that led me up to it. And, it basically, I walked into the airport with a parking spot that was 40 feet from the walkway. The walkway landed in TSA, and TSA was one gate. My gate was the first gate from TSA. I had pre-approval, clear, and 3 other things. So I got in front of 200 people. Didn't have to take any clothes off. Didn't have to empty my backpack and walk straight onto the plane.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, I know that I may have gone a little bit off track, but I thought, it's sort of the journey has taken me from testing something in a book to writing it and believing it and saying, this is for anyone who might not believe it. If it's a placebo, what's it matter if it's working?
Right, exactly. And I don't know if you've read the book, You're the Placebo by Joe Dispenza. Have you read that?
No, I haven't read that.
Oh, that's a really good one. And so he's a neuroscientist and he studies spontaneous remission. And he, studies like what causes people to go into these spontaneous remissions who have, life-threatening illnesses like cancer and other things like that. And he, through his studies, has found out that pretty much 80% of anything we do is placebo. Even things like surgeries and medical procedures. So when somebody talks about placebo, in my mind, I'm like, well, everything's kind of placebo if you think about it. And then there's the element of what's out of our hands, what's out of our control.
Yeah, I'm in total agreement with that. I mean, placebo, my mom used to teach equestrian skills.
Mm-hmm.
She was an amazing amateur rider and then turned professional. And one of the things she used to make us do was visualize. Before we went into the arena. We jumped big jumps on young, stupid horses. And she would be like, sit in front of the arena and visualize what's going to happen. You tell me how you're going to walk in, where you're going to circle, the lines you're going to take. You're going to tell me you're going to count the steps. You're going to say, you're going to ride that course in your mind 2 or 3 times before you walk in the arena.
Yeah.
We won class after class after class. And it's funny because, as I got older, I started to realize that, when I got eventually cleared of the issue I had after 5 years of being tested literally every 6 weeks. MRIs, blood test, and they said it was just an anomaly in the testing. I started laughing, and I have a lot of brothers, and one of my brothers has had like 5 or 6 back surgeries, and they've been amazing back surgeries. He's recovered amazing from them, and his life is very full and awesome. But like, I'll sit there and say, I've got a back problem, and I may want to have surgery because I want it to get fixed, but I'm going to try visualizing. And figuring out what's bugging me, what's causing that pain, where's the block that's causing it. If it's arthritis, I don't know if I can regenerate the arthritic changes and put them back, but maybe I can draw more fluid into that area. Maybe I can get it to relax a little bit and move a little bit. I don't know what I can do, but let me try. And don't get me wrong, I've had 5 surgeries on my knee, because I play hard and I, I might have been able to heal it, but the rips were pretty good.
Right.
I need to be reattached. But I would be back on a horse 2 weeks after a knee surgery.
Yeah.
So you go, again, is it, Western medicine and Eastern medicine complement each other?
Exactly. And I think, what one thing what I love about you is that you are willing to try, and you have this drive to always show up as the best version of yourself. And it seems like that drive, you have such an open mind when it comes to different modalities or, different avenues.
Yeah, I think, I mean, again, I grew up in an environment that might be different than most. So I also believe that if I want to see change in the world, I have to be the change in the world.
Right.
And you look at it and you go, what kind of life do you really want to have?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I know this is so funny because I'm hearing someone in my office that just walked back in. They're waiting for me to give them some insights on something, but their words are coming to my mind. So I always laugh because as you watch people grow, you're never at the top of your game. There's always a challenge. On the horses, there was always a horse that would do something you've never experienced before. In business, there's always a project that you've never experienced or a way to do something. And like Benjamin Franklin has said that everything in this world has always existed, will always exist. It's up to each of us to figure out how to apply it to our generation and our technologies. So I look at like what you're saying and I go, my friends will say, you're so amazing. You bring it every time. You're very elevated, very connected. And I laugh because I'm like, they may be at level 3 or 4 and think I'm amazing. Well, I realize I'm at level maybe 15 out of 1,500.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think I'm talking to God, and I'm talking to God's third assistant.
Right.
I'm talking a very, very elevated guide.
Uh-huh.
I'm taking one piece at a time, and I'm like, I'm sort of scared of what my life can be like because, my life is what people say is I've got a 10 ass. I mean, I go to amazing places, have amazing friends, anything that I want pretty much shows up in front of me in some form.
Mm-hmm.
I don't dictate what form it is. I mean, I drive a very nice car, but I drive a little older version of that nice car.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at, everything in my life is just an absolute blessing. And it's a blessing because every day when somebody challenges me, I may react, I may blow it. Mm-hmm. I blow it just like everyone else. I mean, I can blow it 15 times in a day. And sometimes I'll sit there and I'll be like, am I really about to do what I think I'm going to do? And can I even stop myself? No, I can't stop myself. It's happening. Why am I doing this? This is so wrong. And then I'll be like, oh God, I ruined that for life. And then I'll meditate on it. And I'll forgive myself and I'll do some sort of energy exercise. And like, God, I may not have structure. I am like the worst student ever because it's like, I'll fall asleep in half of them and, I'll just do them completely out of order. But I'm like, I'm going to do something and I'll get a little piece of information. I'll get a little chip pushed away. And then for some reason, what I thought I blew for life is not back on track because you could never go back to where you were.
Right.
But it was better than it used to be.
Yeah. And there's that perfection in all of it.
Yeah. I mean, if I didn't do something, if I just did that wacky thing I did, like, I was telling someone one day I was having this conversation with myself and I don't know why, but I was hell-bent on doing something stupid. And I'm like, it's not going to hurt anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And my friend was like, well, you have this belief with what you're doing that if it doesn't lead towards something, why are you doing it? Your energy's precious. And I said, I don't know why I'm doing it. I can't stop myself. And I kind of heard one of my guides go, well, you got free will.
Mm-hmm.
Your choice. And I started laughing. I'm like, well, what if I become a monk? Because I'm about to go meet this monk. Maybe I can become a monk and I can wear robes and I can go up into the hills and I can, forego all of my worldly possessions and all the pressure of the day of making decisions and supporting other people. And I can just be a conduit of energy for a higher power.
Mm-hmm.
I hear this laughing in my head. And I hear this, it doesn't work that way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here to fulfill your intentions.
Right, yeah.
And if you do that, you have no intention. And I can't fulfill it. So you're breaking that for others.
Mm.
And I'm laughing and I'm going, darn. Okay, that means that I have to, like, basically you're telling me I can go ahead and do this stupid thing and I'm better off and the world's going to be better because I honored this stupid thing. And it was in essence, yes, because,
Yeah.
you're going to not do anything that's going to hurt anyone, and you're going to have fun doing it, and it's going to lead to something else. And it sure as heck did. It led to just a crazy adventure. And, but it's trusting, it's just trusting that it's not even trusting, it's just believing in magic.
Yeah.
Believing in, never giving up. It's saying that, it's not an entity that's going to forgive me. It's my relationship with myself that allows me to start having fun, to dance in African drum circles and to, just go barefoot for a week in Hawaii, and you sit there like, those are the kind of things where you're like, is this a smart move? Well, what's it matter?
Yeah, and smart according to who?
According to who? What's my goal? My goal is to get connected and to feel the life force.
Yeah.
Around me. First you have to feel it in yourself. Then if you can learn to feel it in the things around you, then you can predict the motions around you, not to control them, but to guide them. And
right.
You become the conduit for guiding change. So, I mean,
right.
that's a long way of answering, it's like, I look younger, I feel younger. I'm finishing a day that started at 3:15 in the morning, and I still have 2-3 more meetings tonight. And, it's not me that's doing them. I'm not tired. I'll wake up in a great mood tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what happens when you allow the energy to flow.
Yeah.
To become energized by it.
You don't worry about what you have and haven't done, because you know that half the things you thought you had to do were things that you projected you needed to do, but they actually never needed to be done in the first place.
Right.
You start to feel this energy that says, yeah, I've got to get this out. I've got to make this phone call. I've got to make this inquiry. Even right before this call, I was a few minutes late because I was looking for a file, and the person who took the project over went MIA on me. And okay, I can panic and try and do this myself, or I can sit for about 3 seconds, visualize what needs to be done ultimately, reverse engineer it to the last person that I know is available, looked up on Slack to see who was green that had those skill sets, sent a message to one of them. They said, I thought this person had taken the project over. And I said, so did I. And they said, well, how about I take care of this and I'll send it over to you. I'll Slack it over to you in about an hour. I'm like, that would be great, because you know what? I'll be off of my call and I can deal with it.
Yeah.
So I can sit here because I used the energy to solve the problem instead of brute strength.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. And is that woohoo? Is that witchcraft? Is that common sense? What's it matter what you call it?
I think it's just natural.
It's natural.
Yeah.
It's a God-given right.
Right. Yeah.
A universal right, or a personal right. The Masons were my favorite thing to study as I was growing up, because the Masons were a group of people that they broke the boundary of prejudice. The true Masons were tradesmen, and each compound in the old ages would only allow people of their religion to come in and work on the temples, the churches, the castles. The noblemen only wanted people of their belief system in it. Well, their belief systems were very rigid, and they didn't allow for anything out of control. They didn't want to let the emperors didn't want anyone to be tapping into the energies they had.
Right.
They wanted it pure. They wanted to control it. So the Masons came along, and they had these great skills, creative. The energy flowed through them. Well, they got to become a Switzerland of such, because basically they had to abide by a few rules. Now, of course, no one knows all the rules unless you're a higher Mason, and they keep it pretty secret and coveted. But the essence is, you have to believe in a higher power. It doesn't matter what higher power you believe in. You have to believe in, and there's something that is greater than you in this world,
Mm-hmm.
and that you need to believe and follow that. The second rule was that you had to be open to learning and always growing. And so you had to be growing and sharing. And the third was that you had to be taking care of others.
Mm-hmm.
So you had to take care of your brother's family if something happened to them. You honored the relationship, and if somebody, you always took care of those that were in need. And there were a lot of other rules, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, as I understand it, those were some of the main ones. And I started to realize that the Masons were the first ones that realized the energy is free for everybody.
Yeah.
It's actually, if you can just accept that there is magic in the world. You know, it's funny because this is something that someone I got from a friend of mine. I think it says magic is totally real.
Yeah.
You know, because he's like, I live in a fairyland, and like, I laugh. He goes, I create my environment, and everyone thinks it's unreal, but in my world, it's everything that's there is real.
Right. Right.
So, and they choose for it to not be real. But for me, I've never been happier in my life. I've never had more money in my life. I've never had a better love life. I've never had, you know, better friends,
Mm-hmm.
a better relationship with my family, and nicer cars, better apartment, you know. And it's all because, you know, he believes in a higher power. He believes in taking care of those around him,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and he never stops learning.
Right.
So, you know, when you look at it and you go, you can always be better the next day.
Right.
You can, you know, I can spend my time watching a sitcom, or I can spend my time meditating, or I can spend my time helping a friend. Which one's going to take me closer to that, my goal? And my goal being, I want people to look at me and go, what are you doing? How are you doing it? Because I want to have a life like yours.
Yeah.
You know, and not from envy, but because it's like,
It's inspiring.
Yeah, because my friends are real. My life is real.
Mm-hmm.
And it's attainable.
Right.
So I hope I answered some of your questions there.
Yeah, absolutely. That was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. And it's funny, we started off, you shared that somebody told you in second grade that you weren't a good communicator.
Yeah.
And this is like, you're just amazing with the stories that you tell, and you know, just how everything flows. So thank you so much for everything that you shared this evening.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So Michelle, how can people, if they want to like learn more about you, get in contact with you, what should they do?
Well, it's funny because if you have a business question, or you want to learn more, we have a site, a webpage called it's called 50 Shades of J, and it can be found at abraham.com/50shades. And we have gifted a lot of content business-wise, and it's all kind of focused. It's not organized. It's not going to walk you and hold your hand through, but it will give you a lot of information on how to be preeminent, be more creative, start looking at untapped avenues that you're interested in.
Mm-hmm.
And I can be reached through that website. You can reach me through info@abraham.com, or even Michelle@abraham.com.
Okay.
And, you know, I have a few other websites, but I'm still advisory board on those. And I'd be happy to come on sometime and share all about those.
Yeah. Awesome. That sounds great. All right. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you, Sarah.
All right. Have a great night.
Right, bye.